Hi, hello, this is Anup here. And in this video, what we are going to see is top 50 SCCM interview questions, or rather, I would call it as FAQs, frequently asked questions in SCCM. Some days before, I think yesterday, Abhinav published an article on this point. I was going through that and wanted to talk about that and share my thought process around this point, right? So I don't think we are going to give any tips and tricks to pass the SSCM or configuration manager interview here. Okay. But what we are trying to do, the HTMD community is trying to do with this particular post is to help people understand how interviewer can ask technical questions and how he or she will come to know about your technical depth or technical knowledge, right? And most of the time I have seen a difference in interview questions. If you if you are giving interview for some of the organizations in India or abroad, right? Like US or UK or Europe. So there's a different in the process, and there would be a different pattern in the interview process in my experience. So I just wanted to share that also in this video. So before that, let's go through some of the quick things which Abhinav shared in his post. Okay, so this is his post, and he says this is again frequently asked questions, etc. Yeah, this is good point, right? Without hands-on experience, there's nothing. You cannot do much just reading this FAQs or interview questions, right? The interviewer would be smart enough to understand whether you have the hands-on experience or not from your answers. Okay, so be very careful about that. So don't think you would be able to crack the SCCM interview and you will get the job easily by just learning these questions. So no, that is not going to happen, as he mentioned in the post, right? So hands-on experience is required. You need to do the testing and all the R&D in your personal lab, etc., right? And you need to have an experience within the enterprise, right? If that particular profile needs that kind of an experience, then you need to have the change management experience within the organization and the incident management experience within the organization apart from the SCCM technical stuff. Okay, so let's go through this and say he is mentioning here about the SCCM training which HDMD provides, free training which HDMD provides. These videos are available in YouTube. There is an Intune training also from HDMD, so you can refer to that also. All these are going to help with your SCCM interview, right? So nowadays, whenever you attend SCCM interview, the interviewers are normally asking Intune questions also, because that is the buzzword now. Okay, that is what I think we have somewhere here. Uh, See, uh, we have a post in HTMD where we talk about SCCM versus Intune jobs. Okay, so that is also important. You need to understand where you stand, what is your inspiration, and how you want to proceed, right, in the career. Okay, so Intune is also part of SSCM interviews nowadays, so you need to be aware of Intune. You need to understand what is Intune, and you need to understand the integration between Intune and SCCM. Okay, so I think Abhinav is covering that part also in the questions, interview questions. So SCCM, even though I am saying SCCM, 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 there's no official, it is not the official name of the product anymore. Right. It was configuration manager, system sender configuration manager. That is why it is called as SCCM, and it is still known as SCCM within I think 90 percentage of the organizations. Okay, they don't want to call it as configuration manager or MEM or something like that. So, but the new name is, as you know, Microsoft Endpoint Manager Configuration Manager. That is the new name, right? Mentioned somewhere here. Yeah. So Abhinav has mentioned somewhere here. Yeah, this is the one, right? This is the one. MEMCM. That is the official name. And it comes under UEM solution from Microsoft. That is also important, right? To understand. But I don't give more weightage to all these things because probably interviewer is not interested what Microsoft calls, what is the name of the product which Microsoft markets, right? So that is not important over here. Let's go down and check what is the other things, right? Architecture. So architecture, it is important to understand SCCM architecture, even though you are going for level 2 interview or something high level, from a very high level. You don't need to talk about SQL load balancing, SCCM active passive things, etc. Those are like very specific, very deep down in the technology. So you don't need to worry about that if you are a fresher and going for SCCM interview, or if you are going for level 1 or level 2 SCCM interview, right? But you need to have a basic idea, something like it is a client, a server client architecture, and you will have a server infrastructure, and then you should have a client installed on the devices, etc., etc., to have a SCCM thing. So that is the architecture I think Abhinav is talking about here, the primary servers, CAS, etc. Okay, so sites, SCCM sites, and the numbers, right? This is also kind of important to understand, to get the details, somewhat details. You can go to these links in his post, and probably you will get more details on each point. So that is also important. If you have time and if you want to understand SCCM in a deep level, it is better to go through these links and understand it better, right? And what are the site roles, right? This is also kind of important to understand, even for the level 1 level 2 tasks, but you can, if you are level 1 level 2, then probably quickly understand, read what is MP is for policy, management, etc., sending policies, etc., all those stuff, right? I'm not going to go into the details of every components or every technicality of SCCM. So we have discussed that in different videos and the HTMD trainings, etc., etc. So you can refer to those videos. Okay. Distribution point is basically for content, etc., and SUP is for patching. So these are the high level things which you need to quickly understand. And SMS provider is basically a bridge between WMI and the SQL database, etc., in a very high level. Right. So basic idea you should have. That is what I meant, and I think that is what Abhinav is helping us with here. Okay, and the site systems and site system server roles. Okay, I we might need to edit this site system server roles maybe to add. Okay, so examples given here, so it will be easy for you. Six discoveries. Okay, that is good. Six discoveries are here, but some of the new stuff is added like Azure AD discovery, etc., right? User discovery, etc. So that is also important to understand. Okay, and discovery is important, and then once discovered you need to install the clients and what are the installation methods, and then once you have installed the client, how do you come to know it is installed successfully? So that is where Abhinav is talking about this, and log files, etc., right? So this is very important, right? And inventory is also good. Inventory, what is inventory? What is the difference between software inventory and hardware inventory? This is tricky, he says. Yeah, that's a good point, a good tip. Don't get into trouble when the interviewer try to confuse you with hardware inventory and software inventory, right? Hardware inventory includes software details also, okay, in SCCM context. So schema extension, AD schema extension, that is also important point. Whether we need to mandatory AD schema extension is mandatory, and what is WSOS? What is the importance of WSOS? What a soup. So this is, I think he created in a flow, and I think I like the flow because it is kind of discovery and then client installation, then going into schema and the components, etc. So it is keeping a mix of standard things and the modern things, right? Over here he's talking about the modern thing, cloud management gateway, right? And then going back to collections, the basic stuff. Okay. And the again new thing, CM pivot. Okay. What is CM pivot? How we can use it. If you want to kind of quickly go through it, you can. And patching process, server side patching process. Probably the interviewer might ask, okay, what does the server side patching process which you normally follow? And there's one important note he mentioned here. I liked it. This is about the change management process and incident management process which you need to follow if you are working for an enterprise organization, right? You don't go big bang with all the patching stuff or any other deployment as such, right? You will go through a ring process, automated ring process or a manual ring process. First you will deploy the patches to a small amount of devices, 5 devices, 6 devices. Then you will go to the ring process where you will have a bigger group to deploy in production. You will deploy that to the production, those users or devices. Then you will go with the broad deployment, that would be a production deployment. So this is a phase based deployment which you need to follow as part of the change process within the organization. And you need to verify whether users are reporting any problem. You need to monitor the logs on the device as well as on the server, right, during the initial phases, whether it is going okay, whether it is impacting other issues or creating other issues, etc., right? So that is very important point. I like it. So this is another tip. So here probably the interviewer might try to trick you by saying, "Oh, okay, yeah, you know the patching process, but how do you deploy this to your uh, 1 lakh devices or 100,000 devices? Okay, how do you deploy this to 100,000 devices?" So you need to be very careful about that. In that scenario, you need to explain the phase-wise approach, how to deploy phase by phase, etc., right? So yeah, cloud attach again, new thing, the logs. Okay, logs are always. playing a part in Intune interviews. Sorry, Intune SCCM interviews, etc. Right? Okay, so here we are talk. Here, I think we can see the logs. Logs is the main thing, and provider backup. Co-management is another interesting thing which he explains here, and hardware inventory logs. This is all somewhat generic questions which interviewer might ask, or they don't care sometimes, right? It depends on the interviewer, right? Some interviewers are specific, very specific. They want to know the thing, the things. Nowadays, for me, it is not very important because you can get everything by just googling it, right? You don't need to remember the log files, you don't need to remember the remember the port numbers, etc., right? But you need to know the concept of it. That is important for me. The client library, SCCM content library, not client library, content library, right? You need to know the structure, you need to understand the structure. So that is important, not remembering each name of the folder or something like that, or log files related to DPs, etc. That is not important for me, because if you know there are specific logs in this particular location on the remote DP, then you are good, right? You know where to search it and where to find it, right? That is what interviewer will be looking for. Okay, but they will try to trick you with some questions like, oh, okay, where are the logs stored in remote DP, and where are the logs stored in the site server DP, if you have a primary server and you have a DP over there, etc., right? That is for understanding your knowledge, probably, or experience, not knowledge, your experience, right? Confirming your experience. Okay, so again, the client side patching process is explained here by him, and the application deployment process, and then the other log files, and then the software sender scenario. This is most common scenario, right? And the scan failures is another common scenario, which you need to understand. And this is also kind of depends. These answers are very generic answers. So it depends on your experience how the things can go wrong and what could be the reason for scan failures, etc. Okay, port numbers again. For me, port numbers are, you need to understand which are the ports. Okay, you should have a higher level idea or high level idea about the ports and the communication, how the communication is between site systems, site servers, clients, and the domain controllers for the authentication, etc. But I don't think it is very important to remember all these tricky ports, like, for example, online, for online clients, for fast channel notification, etc. You need then specific port numbers, and that is not very important to understand those things. Okay, it is not very important. But if you can remember it, it is important to understand. Don't get me wrong, it is very important to understand, but it is not important to remember those numbers. Okay, but you must know what is 80 and what is 443, right? That is generic thing, basic stuff, right? HTTPS is 443 and HTTP is 80, and all those things, right? That is basic. And DNS, what is the for DNS? 53, right? It depends on that, right? That knowledge, basic knowledge, you should have. Okay, but I don't think it is fair to ask a deep level into the port numbers. So yeah, bits bits is important part, and to download, etc., right? PowerShell script deployment, this is also a new thing, right? Which is included in SCCM, Windows servicing is also new thing which is included. Community hub is the new thing which is included. So you should have all these ideas. Then only the interviewer will get the confidence that you know the things the in the new SCCM world. You are not in the old SCCM world, etc. So it is important to understand all these things. The maintenance Windows thing, and yeah, other tips and tricks also he provided, probably about the change management process and other things, right? So yeah, let's go back and see. Let's go back and check the last point which I mentioned at the start of this video, right? It depends from where your interviewer is from, and it depends which position you are applying for. So all these things matter, and the interview questions might might be different for each individual interviewer and each individual interview roles, right? So for example, if you are a level 1, if you are applying for level 1 SSCM, level 2 SSCM, then it is something like they should normally, interviewer should ask about the basic things about SCCM, right? How to access SCCM, and where is the client located, where you can see the client applets in the control panel, etc. What is it called? So this is our level 1 task, right? Help desk kind of thing, right? For help desk interview, people will go deep into SCCM. Okay, but for level 2 task, application deployments and the operational kind of task, application creation, deployment, packaging, in that kind of interviews, probably it will they will ask about how to create application package, and how to confirm whether application package is created and content is distributed to the DPs, and what is DPs, what is MPs, those kind of thing. And then probably they will go into bit more into DP SUP, where what is the difference between WSUS and SUP, and what is the connection between them, those kind of things. And then level 3 kind of tasks or interviews, if you are applying for that, then they will start normally go into a bit more deep into the infrastructure side of it and the complex scenarios of application deployment. What is application grouping, a group of application, can we deploy a group of application to a device, right? Not the individual deployment, as a group, right? And then they will talk about task sequence, OSD, etc., etc., boot image, how to create boot image, those things they will ask, okay? And how to create custom images, etc., etc., they are going to ask, okay? So that is for level 3. And level 3 senior people will also have to kind of do the engineering work to define or test new solutions which are coming in, or some organization will call it as a level 4 thing, okay? The engineering work, where you need to define or design the integration between SCCM and Intune, cloud attach, how that is going to work, how that is going to help your organization, and why do we need to go into SCCM co-management, etc., etc., right? So that those are all scenario based questions you will get. So that is also important for that level of job roles and profiles. So you need to have an understanding of that. What is the advantage of having that integration, like cloud attached integration devices, SCCM managed devices will get synced to Intune, and your help desk can access MEM admin portal to have some actions on the SCCM managed devices, etc., right? So that is also important. So depending on job role, job location sometimes, and job profile and interviewer, the questions, the SCCM interview questions will differ or vary. So be prepared for it. First of all, you need to understand the profile, you need to understand the organization, you need to do some research about the organization before going into an interview, right? So you will come to know whether that is a global organization. They have offices in India, in Europe, in US, everywhere in the world, right? Then you need to, you can get prepared accordingly, right? So you can give their own example. If I am your SCCM admin, I'll do like this because I have a global team, and then you can expand on it, right? So that is what you need to do. So it is very important to prepare from a non technical perspective as well for interview, cracking the interviews. So it is not always um, technical SCCM technical stuff. So you need to understand that, and you need to prepare that, and you need to ready for all these things. And most important, don't get panic. Be be honest, right? Be honest. If you don't know anything, if you don't know one particular thing that interviewer is asking, tell him or tell her, I don't know about this, I have never worked or I have never read about it. Right? So that is going to give them a confidence in you, and that is going to make you a trustworthy person, right? So that is also important. Okay. So I think these are the tips I just wanted to provide in this particular video. So thank you for having this 50 top 50 questions, Abhinav. I hope this would be useful for the community, device management community. Thank you all for watching this video. Hope this was helpful as well. Like the question and answers, and see you next time. Bye bye.